Indeed, the Abbasid Caliphate has a very interesting history. The question we will be exploring today is how the Abbasid Caliphate became independent after 200 years of occupation. The 8th century, the Abbasid Caliphate was the most powerful nation at its time, stretching from Tunisia all the way to modern-day China. Over time, however, the Abbasids began to collapse, losing more and more land over time. This was until the Persian dynasty of the Buyids conquered the Abbasids in the 11th century. A century later, however, the Seljuks took over. In 1135, there were tensions between the Abbasids under the Caliph al-Mustashid and between the Seljuks of Hamadan under the Sultan Mas'ud. The tensions escalated to the point where the Caliph marched to Hamadan in a state of war. Unfortunately for him, however, his army abandoned him and the Caliph surrendered, but was pardoned by Mas'ud as long as he did not escape his tent. While the Caliph was reading the Quran, he was assassinated, supposedly by the assassin. The next Abbasid king, Ad-Rashid bin Nahr, sought to avenge the death of his father. So when a Seljuk envoy arrived in Baghdad, the Caliph insulted them. When the Sultan Mas'ud heard this, he was angered. Seeking revenge, he had begun the blockade of Baghdad in 1136. The blockade lasted for 50 days. During those 50 days, the people of Baghdad revolted against the Caliph. In the ensuing chaos, the hated palace was burned. Caliph al-Rashid fled to Mosul, where he eventually abdicated. In his place, Mas'ud installed a new caliph, al-Muqtafi. Al-Muqtafi was indeed a very active caliph. In 1148, a group of rebellious Seljuk generals marched into Baghdad, but the march was successfully repelled by the Caliph. A few months after 1152, the Caliph successfully took the cities of Al-Hilah and Wasa. In 1157, after the death of Sultan Mas'ud, another sultan came in power. He was worried that the Abbasid Caliph was getting too much power, so he, along with the Zengid ruler, set an army and marched to Baghdad. As Muhammad brought his 30,000 men, the Caliph brought his troops from Al-Hilah and Wasit. From January 12, the Seljuks attacked the western side of Baghdad, while the Abbasids defended. The Abbasids used a special force, known as the Nafatuns, who shot fire chemicals at enemy lines. In February, the Abbasids retreated to eastern Baghdad, while the Seljuks set camp in western Baghdad, where the Abbasids installed fortifications, catapults, crossbows, and civilian troops. Even the Grand Vizier was ordered to give 5 dinars to every single soldier wounded. On March the 4th, the Seljuks and Zengids were ready to fight once again. They began by bombarding the city, but the Abbasids resisted fiercely and even destroyed some catapults and a battle attacking their gates. In March 29, when the Seljuks fixed one of the bridges, they skirmished with the native fighters of Baghdad, but failed to infiltrate. On March 29, Muhammad ordered his men to climb 400 ladders into Baghdad, but were repulsed due to heavy fire and casualties. Overall, the Seljuks did not get anywhere. Maudud's vizier, Zainuddin, had to lift the siege due to internal problems, while Muhammad also had to lift the siege in order to maintain his throne back in Hamadan. This means that the winner of this conflict is the Abbasids, and became fully independent from the Seljuks after nearly 200 years of occupation from foreign forces. Thus continued the era of constant prosperity in the Abbasid Caliphate. That, of course, until the Mongols came and invaded. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, if such a person actually exists.